All right. So first things first. Let's just go through and introduce ourselves so that um, everybody knows who we are. So I'll start. I'm Harold Wallace III. I'm the director for the African American Cultural Center. Ms. Donnell, you can start next.
Sure. Okay. I'm Donnell Whiteside. I'm Vice President for Legal Affairs.
Brandon Morris, political science major here at Austin Peay, senior coming up this semester.
Hey.
Mia Johnson, majoring in biology.
All right. So first question, rating from 1 to 10, where would you put the series?
1 being bad or 10 being bad,
1 being bad, 10 being good. 10 is good.
9.7.
Okay.
That's with all honesty there is. 9.7.
Okay. Tamia, what about you?
I would say an 8.
Okay.
Man, I'm gonna say a 6.
Okay. I think that I'm probably right there at a 6.5. I think that it's definitely inspiring in certain ways, but of course it is a story inspired by the life of, but it's just kind of hard to kind of know what's fact and what's fiction. And I think that is important when it comes to dealing with historical figures like herself. And so, yeah, but we'll touch a little bit more on that. So we got a 6.5, a 6. You said 7 to me or 7.4? Oh, you said 8.
Yeah, 8.
8 and a 9.79999 from Brandon. Okay, so we got somebody else coming in. Here's Miss Mia.
Go in the front.
Mia, you here?
Her thing says connecting to audio.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Mia.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. Introduce yourself real quick and your major.
Hi, I'm Mia. I go by MJ. I am a broadcast media major, a senior graduating in December, and my minor is African American Studies.
Awesome. Okay, so I just asked them a question. The first question of the day is rating from 1 to 10, 1 being bad, 10 being great. Where would you rate the series?
I would give it a 7.
Okay, so we're pretty much along the whole spectrum right here. At least everybody's over 5.
Yeah.
That's good.
Was that low? Was that really low?
No, we have a 6. We got a 6.5. We have a 8, and we have a 9.7, and then we have your. You just said a 7, right?
7, yeah.
7. Okay, so.
Is Mia on the camera?
She might not want to be seen right now.
Oh,
yeah.
All right, so one of the first topics I want to touch on is, and I think that they pretty much do a very good job of opening up with this, and it has a lot to do with colorism within the early stages and throughout the rest of the whole series. So let's talk a little bit about colorism in the series and maybe some of the struggles or how far we might come today. Anybody want to start?
Me personally, I feel like it plays it shows a big deception of what, we might have seen, have we lived during those times of what was going on. That part, you see a lot of colorism going on till this day within the Black community itself. So I really like the way they played that out right there, and how, you know, light-skinned people have more of advantages ahead of, you know, dark-skinned, brown-skinned people in the African-American community, because we see that today now in American society. You know, how some white people will like light-skinned blacks but not deal with the darker shades, you know. But we see how that works out now. So I like the way they did that. I like the way.
Okay. Anybody else?
I know a lot of people kept saying that her name. So her name that they used in the series is not the lady real name. I believe her real name is like Annie.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, but a lot of people kept saying that she's not as light skinned. But looking at her pictures, it seems like she was light skinned. And if it wasn't true that she was actually dark skinned, it's just the fact that she wanted to look more Caucasian. So she branded her whole brand around the fact of darker skinned people will want to have their hair straightened out like Caucasians. I just like the whole fact that they that they just made Madam C.J. Walker a person that's a darker skin tone, and yes, she wanted her hair fixed, but I just like the fact that she actually put her face on her products to be like, okay, although I'm dark skinned, I can also get my hair the way that I want it. So I just like the fact that they brought that up to light.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the concept of colorism was looked at on both sides of how people perceive you, but then also how you internalize. And so I really did like how they sort of treated all of it together. I think that probably what they faced back then is not as I don't perceive it to be as overt now, but I definitely still feel like it is an issue in our community, and obviously, and as well as how other people outside of our community see us.
Right.
I think that they did a good job of showing the levels of all the different characters. But I think that it was important for them to start the film or the series off kind of making her the sweet antagonist. Like they made sure that we knew that she was a nice person, but her little small comments about you could never sell or no one would want, you know, to buy from you. And then she said, even in your Sunday's best, you still look like you came from the plantation.
Yeah.
So I think it was important for us to see, as far as from a film perspective, it was good for us to see the good and the bad very early on. But I think them having her first sales women were both young, lighter skinned women. And she was just like, go out there and sell, like y'all do fine, like because of the way you look almost.
Yeah.
And
then although I think Madam C.J. Walker was confident within herself, it's just that she kept on hearing the same thing, like lighter women this, and then her husband came and made the Walker girl, which was a light-skinned person. So like in the movie, you would see people riding bikes, and then she would picture the Walker girl. It's just after you start hearing something for so long, you kind of start to believe that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like School Days. They had a very strong message behind colorism in that movie, you know, between the light-skinned Greek girls and the pro-black girls who was, you know, naturally with the hair, and how they said, you know, men like girls with pretty curly hair, not this nappy stuff. So I like the way the colorism was played, and then, you know, I use that as an example as well. Eve, Moose Baby.
Mia?
I definitely one of my favorite parts of the film was when she really was shown, like she finally had got her factory, and because she kind of beat her in her own game, but beat her in her own game in a sense, but with the colorism, it kind of was shown on both sides, because even though the lady was light skinned, her mom treated her her mom was a slave, was a slave that was raped, and so her mom treated her badly, and so I think she internalized that, and that since her mom was dark skinned, she took those feelings that she had towards her mother and took it towards all dark skinned women, and especially Madam C.J. Walker. I think that's why it was such a big rivalry with it against her.
Yeah, I think that also the mother, which we're going to get to that because that's part of the levels that it showed in Addie's character, because she was a victim a little bit against her mother, because her mother almost treated her like, girl, you light skin, go out and make some money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even though I got raped and I had you, you got fair skin, so you should be able to do anything with this fair skin. And so she kind of did the same thing to her as she did to the young saleswomen at the very beginning. And so, but yeah, that was I love Addie's character because she was a lot of deception, but they also showed why she was how she was a victim in certain circumstances. And so it was very well done in that aspect.
Yeah, like even when she met up with Booker T. Washington, she thought that she was supposed to been out competing Madam C.J. Walker, but he turned around and just made her like a show puppet. So I also believe that was a downfall for light skins back then, because although that many men wanted light skinned women, but there also was just like a show puppet to them. Like, I have me a light skinned woman. They never thought a light skinned woman can actually do work.
Yeah. Brandon, make sure that you mute when you need to.
Okay.
I agree off of that because I kind of like the part where they showed that the difference of the time, because it was during those times it was two different thought processes going on. It was either Booker T. Washington's ideology or W.E.B. Du Bois, and you seen the two. I like how they showed the two different personas, because W.E.B. Du Bois had respect for Madam C.J. Walker and was willing to shake her hand and knew about her and was excited to meet her and was excited to, congratulate her on her journey as being an entrepreneur, rather than Booker T. Washington wanted her to sit and have her place in the movement, that let men come up first and then you'll come up second. And then I think that's why his wife and everyone sat back at first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So we getting in some other topics we're gonna bring up, but let me try to stay on task a little bit. So this second one is, how much weight does your hair truly have, like when it comes to your confidence and how you feel about yourself? I think that's a underlining topic that is throughout the whole movie, but not really paid that much attention to. But those small visions of her looking in the mirror and how she felt about herself and her hair. I think that's important even in today's world as well. So let's touch a little bit on the importance of hair, and we can talk on a personal perspective as well.
It's crazy because I throw on my wig just to get on the Zoom, because I started being natural a year ago, so I'm not really sure what works best with my hair. I'm just used to weave, but actually I did wear my natural hair yesterday. It was all right. I'm just kind of getting used to it. But me, I have very thin hair, so to me, I'm so used to thick weaves, so I'm really self-conscious about my hair being thin, which made me go natural so it can appear thicker. But I do say I have a love-hate relationship with my real hair, so I would want to cover it up. And I feel like that's the problem with a lot of African American women today, because they're just so used to your hair should be straight, long, all this stuff, so people will go off and get weaves. But I think recently more people are starting to embrace their natural hair more and wearing weaves, which what I'm trying to do is just a process right now for me.
Yeah. Okay. Mia? You there? You on mute, Mia. You got something?
Yo, y'all were breaking up. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, I totally agree. I know for my hair is in transition. Like I've been natural for 2.5 years, and I just want my hair to get longer in length before I try to wear it out all the way, I guess. And weaves are just quicker because I'm always on the go, and natural hair takes a very, very long time, like to get used to and to train and stuff. So I know that, but like as far as confidence, I feel like I feel the same if I have my wig on rather than have my wig off. I just know like with my wig on, I just feel like I got a little longer hair. I can do a little bit. I can flip my hair more and do all that. I can't really flip my natural hair as much.
Okay.
Oh man, I feel like the hair conversation is a whole
Yeah.
like topic that we can go down. But I've been natural now for I think 13 years, and before then I think I had a perm starting at like 5, and then my hair like fell out because I was too young. So then my mom put another perm when I was like 12, and so then from 12 to like I guess 22, 23, I had a perm, and so at some point I was just like, why am I doing this? It was a lot of work. I was in law school at the time, and I was in Arkansas, where in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where it's majority white, so I could not find anyone to do my hair. The whole stress of having to straighten it and all that, I was just like, okay. So I just started letting it grow out, and then I finally cut it off after it was like 2 inches long. So it's grown from like 2 inches to now where it's like, big, when it's all out. But even then, when I like cut all my hair off and I wore it short, my mom was like, I don't know, is that gonna be professional and those kinds of things. And then, when you start doing job interviews, people coax you into straightening your hair for your interview, not wearing it in its naturally curly state. And so it's taken me a long time of just getting comfortable with myself, getting comfortable with my own voice, getting comfortable with where I am in my career, to finally be like, you know what? I don't care. I will show up in all my meetings looking just like this, and you will accept that, and it'll be fine. And so I get where you are saying like it's taking you a process, because I think sometimes you wear weaves so long that when you do see your hair, you think it's thin, but you're judging your hair on Indian people thick.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us don't have that thickness, and so your hair probably is not thin. It's just because you're used to seeing so much volume in your hair. When you take it out, you're like, ooh, I feel bald headed. So it's going to take some time, but I guess what you have to do is just continue to expose yourself to your own hair, and then accept how it is, and figure out, try out different styles and try out different products. It's trial and error, but eventually you'll get to where you're comfortable. And then once you're comfortable with it, then you can go out and, face other people who might not be as comfortable. And that's a whole different battle. Like you gotta internally, you gotta get comfortable with it first, and then after that, face however other people's opinions are about it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's touch on the topic of relationship dynamics. There were so many in this series, but I want to start just first on the Addie and Madam C.J. Walker versus kind of situation. They had the little boxing ring thing, which I felt was a little corny, but I think that it helped kind of get the point across. But I want to touch on the issue of why couldn't it be something that they did together. They touched on it a little bit at the end of how big they could have been if they'd done it together. But this that internal deception and competition amongst each other, instead of like working with each other, we were doing our best to break the other down. And so I want to touch a little bit on that, how you all feel about that dynamic.
I think that's where my evaluation of the movie starts to go down.
Mm-hmm.
Is because it didn't have to. That was a fictionalized part of the story, and so just as you showed that she had an antagonist, you could have shown that they had an amicable relationship and worked together. because I'm sure there was someone in Madam C.J. Walker's life that was a woman who encouraged her. So why couldn't we see that story? Why did you have to lie about a relationship with this person that you made up to show that there was some division amongst two women?
Right, right.
From what I read, it seemed like to me Madam C.J. Walker and the other lady was working together until they had a disagreement, which made them go their separate ways. It's just I don't know. I don't really know how to put it, but if she went to her about this disagreement, I understand why she went off to do her own thing. I just didn't like the fact that it was always a competition. It was just she never. I don't think they showed Annie actually helping Madam C.J. Walker like this will probably work with this. This will probably work with this. He only just showed her, oh, I did this for you, so you don't have no choice but to respect me. And I just don't like that. I don't feel like it's okay just because someone do something for you that I owe them all this because you did this one thing.
Mia?
Agreed. I think that I like this part of the movie was like you said at first, I feel like it was really, really corny. That's why it's a 7 on my rating. Cause like that whole fighting part, like with the boxing, that's what threw me off in the movie. I was like, now I know this ain't like, it was just a lot of extra. But like I get what they mean, like with the two women going like having competition, going at each other. But I think they're also we got to think about the time period. They're the first of their time, first women entrepreneurs. This is the first generation after slavery, so people. So this is they're like the first people really making money, aside from what their husbands are or were doing. So that's why I think their competition they were trying to make with them boxing so big to show that these are two big heavyweight champions of like their times going at each other.
Yeah. And I also didn't like the fact when they was at church how she ended up punching the mirror because the other lady came to produce her company. I just felt like why can't it be two women in their own lane doing the same thing? It always have to be where I have to outshine the other woman so I can make more money than, and it's just like it's enough money to go around.
Yeah. Okay. So now the next relationship dynamic, without going too deep into 3 and 4, let's talk a little bit about the relationship dynamic between CJ and Madam CJ, and their relationship and the bruising of the oh so sensitive male ego that happens throughout throughout those first 2 to 3 episodes.
I felt like he was all down for the cause at first until she started becoming the breadwinner. I just feel like a lot of men, they're okay with women working as long as you're not making as much as me. Or putting too much time into it to where I don't feel needed anymore. Because he even said in the movie, you don't make me feel like the man. That's why he went on and cheated with her salesperson. Mm-hmm. It's just she became the alpha woman in this situation, and he really did not agree with it.
I think that I don't know who was really behind the writing of this part of it, but they kind of made him the victim, for the first kind of part, because she was very driven, and there was a lot of my's and not ours, and so, but we really don't know the backing behind that. But it did seem that although his marketing mind always went to light, he was 100% attracted to Madam C.J. Walker. Like they showed how much he kind of loved her throughout the movie. Like every time something would come up, he would like do that in those first 1 and 2 parts of the series. But then it's like they made him kind of the victim and almost justified him doing what he did until his dad kind of told him like you're wrong 100%. And so I just wanted to like touch on that a little bit because
dad told him his dad planted that seed very early on about you need to have your own. So even that was like, well, then where, you know, it's like an abrupt departure from who he was the first few episodes.
Right. Yeah, it was very interesting because he went from extremely supportive and ready to do whatever. Even the part of it when he says, I'm not moving to Indianapolis. I'm not moving to Indianapolis. And the next scene, they're walking into Indianapolis. So like he was trying his best, I guess, to fight for this male dominance. But I think that it wasn't really an issue until other men started kind of getting into his head, because I think he was 100% a rider for her, and was happy to see her have her dreams. But I think that he just slowly but surely started seeing it just become 100% her dreams and nothing left for him.
Because I know they kept making comments like she make the calls. They kept saying that to where it's like, well, I'm the man of this house. I'm supposed to be making the calls. Back then, they thought men were supposed, like, the head of the household. And the fact that she was making all the calls made him feel less of a man.
Yeah. Mia?
But I feel like those are things like, I feel like he went the easy way out to cheat, because he really never sit down and had that conversation like he said. He was like, he never said you make me feel less of a man, but to the point that until after he did what he did and to try to justify his actions. Mm-hmm. But he never had that conversation, because I think that's what was. Of course, she was very driven. She said she wanted to be like Rockefeller, and I feel like they just weren't equally yoked, because his mom said he wasn't thinking that big. He was like, I mean, we're already booming. He had a there like, we're already doing good. Let's stay in this position. And she wanted to grow. She wanted to be bigger than just Indianapolis. She wanted to sell all over. And he was complacent. He was okay with staying busy in Indianapolis in the hair salon inside of their house instead of getting a new factory.
Very true. So what about do you think that, I mean, of course, do you think that they did a good job of somehow, some way making his cheating look justified though? Like the series itself, like did they really write it in a way?
Yeah, they did.
I believe they did, because I've met some women, young adults, that would say, I would understand if my spouse cheats on me because I'm busy. I'm not giving him the needed attention. So I feel like there are women out there who would be like, well, okay, I understand him cheating.
Mm. Yeah, that's deep. Mia, you had something?
Yes, I think they did do a good job in like making people feel like him, feel sorry for him, his position. But and like Tamia said, it's a lot of people that are in our generation that have that mindset. I just think that again, that's not, even if they tried to justify it, it's still, you got to make it accountable. It was still wrong. It was still wrong what he did. The actions that he took was still wrong.
Yeah. Janelle?
I mean, I think that they presented it to where you could find something redeeming about him. Like you could find ways to say, oh, you know, maybe she wasn't giving him enough attention. But in my mind, I'm like, he's getting no passes for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think from like beginning to the end, like that's what I mean by I enjoyed the character dynamics, because they really made him seem like a saint. You know what I'm saying? Like for the first 2 or 3 episodes, and then because of how she was treating him, he did this. And so like I don't necessarily like the way that they wrote that part of it, but I also like can see how they wanted people to be able to have this conflict with themselves, to be like, do I agree with what he did? I know it's wrong, but I understand, you know, and so that's what I wanted to kind of touch on. What about the son-in-law and his role in the story? We know that we have those snakes in the grass, and so how do you all feel about his character?
I just feel like, why was he even there? Like we could have done without him. But especially like there's sometimes the movies get like on that point of just being a little bit sensational. And so like when they had the divorce scene and they were out there dancing around each other, I'm like, okay, let's stop it. But I think that for me, they didn't do enough to explain why he and Madam C.J. Walker had such a strained relationship. Mm-hmm. Like, I know from the beginning when she first met him, she was like, who is this dude and why is he coming with us? Yeah. But then you fast forward to them in the factory and, you know, she's asking him to do something, but maybe I missed it, but I don't know why he had such a disdain for her. And maybe it was jealousy. Maybe it's just family dynamics where you just have people that don't get along, you know, in-laws and those kinds of things. But he's one character that I'm like, I just don't know that they did enough to develop to where I'm able to make the leap that he would actively do something to harm her.
I think that, so like when I watch stuff like this and when I like think about doing dialogues and stuff like that, I do my best to put myself in everybody's position and walk in everybody's shoes. And I think that, of course, there's still that male ego thing that's there, but there's also that lack of respect that he's dealing with because he wants to do something that he loves, but everybody else is looking at it like you don't want a respectable career, you know. Yeah. And so, you know, I think that that's why the love grew between him and the daughter, because he was like full of joy and full of inspiration when they first got together, and she was excited with him, like he's gonna start a juke joint and he's gonna do this and he's a guitar player. But like from day one, Madam C.J. Walker made it known that you're not even respectable, like I'm not even, and she treated him kind of like that too, you know. And so that's what I'm trying my best to do, is like in every role I'm trying to look into all the different layers, you know. And so him having this dream, just like she has a dream, but she's pushing his dream down and saying it's stupid while everybody else is doing the same thing to her. And so
I just think it's crazy because you can still find people out there that would justify the fact that he snuck into her stuff to give her information, but they would justify it by saying, well, Madam C.J. Walker disrespected him. But I do feel like the reason why Madam C.J. Walker did not respect him because he was very irresponsible to me.
Yeah, they did.
It's one thing to have a dream, but it's another thing to have a dream and not being responsible with trying to actually make this dream come to life. Like he even burnt down their house. It was just a lot of little irresponsible things that he kept doing to me, which is the reason why she felt that way.
Yeah, they made him the mini antagonist. Like, yeah, they did a good job. Even the spilling the stuff outside of the drawers, like they made him seem very irresponsible and show that he didn't care about the company as well. And so, yeah, Mia.
That's what I was gonna say with him. I feel like from the beginning he didn't really have any respect because he married the daughter and then moved in with Madam C.J. Walker and was working for her. So he moved in, got married, and I just feel like when you get married, as a man, you should want to do for your own family. He never had that drive to get out of Madam C.J. Walker's house or to get into anything else. He wanted to work for her, and so he had an attitude in doing the work. So, and I feel like people can't really justify his actions because he really was. He was like a beggar. Like he was living in her house. She was feeding them, taking care of them, and everything. So he really didn't have like anything going on for himself outside of her,
Yeah.
except going to run and go sell her secrets to Annie.
Yeah. So what about the daughter? Now this is kind of like the area that a lot of people have some of the most like discrepancies with, just because I don't know for sure if there's evidence of her exploring her sexuality, like the way that they make it in the story. And of course, when it comes to a Black series and the problem with homophobia within our community, period, a lot of people don't understand why that was in there, period. And so let's talk a little bit about her character and her different relationships that she had.
I didn't see anything wrong with it, but I can see why people would have something to say about it, because back then there was just a big no back then to do that. But like her, as far as like the business, I feel like she was irresponsible to a certain degree too. Like she was very playful. Even when they bought the company in New York, she just wanted to keep throwing parties and everything. After Madam C.J. Walker died, I feel like her daughter really could have changed it to where her company could have been much bigger, but she just didn't have the same drive as her mother. She was just free spirit. So
yeah. Now
I feel like that they like just the Black community kind of like isn't like you said, it's kind of homophobic, and so they like to grasp that somebody could be questioning their sexuality back during those times is to some is still a shocker. But I mean, like how they describe New York back then, that was going right before the before the Harlem Renaissance, excuse me. And so that's when a lot of other Black entertainers were also exploring their sexuality. So I wouldn't put it past them that she's actually was questioning her sexuality, and it's true about that. I think people were just right now a little questioning because it's sensitive topic to some.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the fact that she did explore her sexuality during those times is not out of the norm. When we think about James Baldwin, everyone knew that James Baldwin was gay at that time, and I think there were numbers of people who were exploring. Like I think even we had that discussion on the women's suffrage. One of the leaders of the suffrage movement was openly lesbian. So I think it's not. A lot of people like to say it's taboo and back then, but I think that part did not alarm me. But again, with character development, it's like she's married, she has this whole husband, and then one day this woman touches her hand, and all of a sudden she's hanging out with her in the field. Like what happened? Like we missed something here. So just parts of it where they make a leap that I don't think they did well enough to develop annoy me. But I also think that if we compare her attitude with Madam C.J. Walker, I think that they both needed a little bit of each other. Like Madam C.J. Walker, I think, needed a little bit more of the lightness and playfulness that her daughter had, and then her daughter needed a little bit more of the business acumen and the seriousness that her mom had. And so when we look at parent-child relationships and how they clash, and our expectations for our kids may be different from the ones that they have, and you're struggling with trying to mold and guide them into being the person that they should be, but who are you to say who they should be? I think it explored a lot of those things. I think we all parents have that pull and tug and tension when dealing with children.
What about the let's talk a little bit about the marketing period and the marketing tactics and right versus wrong. And even in today's world, that's something that we still kind of struggle with, like who that represents people that look like us should be represented in our commercials, and our marketing, and who is getting those marketing gigs, and those modeling gigs. And so I because it does say that CJ was in marketing for 13 years, and he did have some really good ideas that were shut down by her because they were more mainstream ideas, because that was what he knew and that was what he learned. But let's talk a little bit about that, and like the Walker girl, and how inspired he was about that, and how good he felt about that, but how quickly she kind of shut that down because of kind of the stereotypes that it portrayed.
I mean, I think he was right in knowing what sells and, trying to position the company to make revenue based upon what is mainstream. But I think she knew that was not authentic to what she was trying to create. Mm-hmm. And the basis of her even starting this was being told that you don't fit the traditional standard of beauty. And so I think, she was trying to directly confront that and say, I can still be a success even if I don't look like the Walker girl. Mm-hmm. It's funny that at the end, they found, to me, somebody that was in the middle.
Yes.
With dark skin, still had the hair. Mm-hmm. But I think we can certainly look today and actually see that that's still a real problem.
Yeah.
Even when we talk about like natural hair care lines, you typically only see a woman with a certain type of hair, even saying that she has natural hair. I mean, it's the bigger curls and all that. You don't see a lot of this, on a natural hair box, which is still trying to market to someone like me. So I still think that is a completely relevant commentary for today.
Okay.
I feel like Madam CJ Walker knew, how can I put it? Because like was stated before, she said that she ended up using someone that was in the middle. I feel like Madam CJ Walker did eventually want to cater to the Caucasians or people that wanted to look like a Caucasian. It's just the fact that she ended up having a flashback, which made her be like, well, no, I'm not doing it, because it brings back memories from where she started from. That's the reason why I think she ended up denying CJ.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's there's a quote, and this has a lot to do with the mother, or Addie and her mother, and then also Madam CJ and her mother. Madam CJ says to her daughter, "You're not cute nor clever enough to be getting knocked up by some guitar player. You need somebody that's going to elevate your life." And so let's talk a little bit about that mother-daughter dynamic, and then also that dependency of getting them. How can you be such a strong, like, driven woman and then still pass down to your daughter saying you need to get you a man that still had those old ideals? I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to say.
It's hard because those types of things, those like, they're underlying narratives that are really ingrained generation to generation. Mm-hmm. And it takes actively undoing that in your own mind to be able to then pass that on to someone else.
Right.
And I don't think she had, even though Madam CJ Walker was actively living a different paradigm than what society would tell you, she still hadn't even confronted that in her mind yet to be able to pass something down to her daughter a different way. And maybe she knew her daughter well enough to know that she wasn't going to be this brilliant businesswoman, so she couldn't take care of herself. And so then she was trying to say, you need to have something to fall back on. But I really do think it's more of just like, you know, the subtleties of raising a daughter and, you know, the things that have been passed down to you in terms of what your value is and how much your value does or does not depend on a man. I think it's really hard to confront that in yourself to then be able to pass it on to your kid.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe she did realize that her daughter was not going to be able to do it, because she did keep giving her chance after chance, but she never just proved herself. But then again, I also feel like there's just something that's within. So like she never did actually confront those demons within herself to actually tell somebody else, okay, you can do this. And being honest, I feel like the only reason why I don't want to say that this is the only reason, but I feel like it was a dream that was taken too far. When I say that, I feel like she only did this hairline to show Addie that she could pass her. So once that she proved to her that I can pass her, then let me just keep going and keep going. It's a dream that was taken too far, which to me is the reason why I think she still had those beliefs. Yeah, you need to find a man that can take care of you, so you're able to get to this next step, to go to the next step.
Yeah. Mia?
I totally agree with what both of you all have said. I feel like it was the mother-daughter dynamic. I feel like she kind of knew her daughter, because in the movie, they really showed her like as kind of like really, really playful. She wasn't really as focused and determined as Madam C.J. Walker was. So that's why she was probably saying that. And also too, during that time, even we seen the struggles that I think she was also giving her a warning, because she knew the struggles that she was having, that when men aren't around and when I have to be the one to make these decisions and I'm at the table, I'm not getting the respect that because like you can see how when the group of men came, the board at first to get her factory, they didn't respect her, how she was just coming at them and her talking and her speaking for the company and not her husband. So she kind of wanted that for her daughter to have. You have to have a man around just in case for the time being. I guess also to warn her and to help her, I guess, because in the mindset back then, she didn't think that being a woman on your own, you could do this without a man's help, without a man being around.
Gotcha. So what about casting? Do you think that they casted Tiffany Haddish because of who her daughter was, or do you think that they built the character around who Tiffany Haddish is?
They built it around who Tiffany Haddish is.
Yeah.
Very much so, because it wasn't Tiffany Haddish in another light. It was Tiffany Haddish doing Tiffany Haddish things. Like she was in an older fit. Like she played her role well, but it was still her being Tiffany Haddish. It wasn't her in a very serious dynamic that we would have been like, oh my goodness, like a big shock. It was still her in her same role.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the misogyny within like the male conference and like the we talked a little bit about how Booker T. Washington brought Addie on the stage, and she was prepared to speak and talk, and he made it known very quickly that she was quite fetching to look at, and didn't let her really speak. And then, of course, the conversation off the stage that he had with Madam C.J. Walker after she got on that stage and said what she needed to say. So let's talk a little bit about that back then and in today's world.
That was the hard one because, it's certainly not to the extent where you can't have business transactions without being without having a man with you. But you know, I've probably said this before, like there are some times when, like, if I'm the only woman in a meeting, people will stand up and shake hands, and they don't even shake my hand. So I think that sometimes men don't even see, you know, how they do look over women. And I thought that the most powerful thing about the scene when they brought Addie out on the stage was she and Madam C.J. Walker exchanged a glance, and it was a knowing. It was like, I know what you mean. I know what you just felt in that moment, where you thought you were exalted, but they just put you in your place, and I understand that. And so I really wish that maybe at that point is when that would have been a perfect moment to see them start to work together, because then you realize that really you have a common, I hate to say enemy, but you got a common challenge.
Right.
Being a woman and trying to be a business owner, you both are in that same boat.
Even when Madam CJ gave her speech, you saw Addie was the first person to clap, even in the back of the room, and so that could have been a turning moment for the whole storyline, but for some reason it didn't go there.
That's our opinion. That's why.
Yeah, you got something?
Yes, I think that like it was just the misogyny in the whole movie. It was you couldn't really get past it, like just to see how they were still struggling even till today, like to kind of see like the transition it is happening. And you could say that like with this new wave of activism that you could see women have now taken a new lead, because it was like, if you look at the leaders, it was Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, but if you look at the Black Lives Matter movement, those are women who are behind that movement nowadays that is pushing it. So it is kind of a new narrative going on now, but definitely the misogyny is still definitely very present in our society. And just to see how far we've come and to see how far we still have to go, and that was very powerful, like especially for Women's History Month. I think Netflix did a really good job in like putting it with the timing for like dropping that movie.
Yeah. What about Booker T. Washington? This is another thing, like this is a big name, and
I wasn't shocked by his characters, his narrative, because like off of readings that I've just read off personally, I read that that's how his ideology was, that he really was someone who felt that women should be in the back and really for men leading the role. And he was really for us he wasn't not us going out and being educators, rather than us getting a trade or a skill and then being able to work it up. So working our way up to be equal to the white man, rather than going out and being entrepreneurs like Madam C.J. Walker was trying to do and stuff. So his narrative that they did, I was like, okay, yeah, I could see that's how he really was. After what been reading, I kind of got it.
This is two quotes that he had in the series. He said, "Ease their fear and appeal to their compass or their compassion." And then also he said, "We can be separate and equal." And then another one was, "We can't afford to waste money on cosmetics." So those are like to mess with such a big name. You know, I'm pretty sure probably one of us went to a school at some point in time that was named after him, or at least know of a school that's named after him. And to portray a man that has that much kind of legend about him in that light, like I think that was interesting.
I even think, like, remember when they were in that restaurant and the guy was like, "Yeah, Booker T. Washington, the great compromiser."
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Finally, like, you know, you trying to take a man down, like what?
It just seemed like there was some hidden agenda against making sure that they knew, and then to not give WEB the same amount of like I guess FaceTime,
Mhm.
it just seemed like somebody was trying to take Booker T down. Mia, what you have?
That's what I was gonna say, because I really didn't like that they did all of that with his character, but then with W.B. Du Bois, he just comes up and then greets her, and then that was it. Like, they show where the NAACP is sitting, but they don't show I don't think they go into the full history of her being like helping the NAACP and some of the bigger events, donating what she did, really the true history that really happened. They could have, I think, dived in more about that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, because they did all of that, like you said, to bring Booker T, to shade him, but not to give who I felt that they were trying to give praise to, but only gave him like one little line or a scene in the movie, which was W.B. Du Bois. So
Right. Mia, you got?
But
Oh, Janelle, what you got?
concept of we can't let the woman elevate before the man is very real, because remember when we had that discussion about the women's suffrage movement, that was the whole thing. It's like you can't let black men vote before you give black men the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of discussion around that time. So I think that, I mean, if someone did feel that way, that was an accurate portrayal of the times.
Yeah, very true. I had that last quote was soon you'll have Negro women making more than Negro men. A Negro man needs to be lifted first. So like that was like the last quote that he basically kind of said to kind of close his chapter. And then his wife being a part of the helping of the factory, it just played a very interesting dynamic. We got a new person coming in, Miss Tierney. She should be here soon. Hopefully, there she is. So let's touch a little bit on the needs for attention. That was kind of what some of the issue was with the infidelity, and the father kind of called that out, that you needing attention. And however you feel right now is not going to feel anywhere close to as bad as regret. And so let's talk a little bit about the needs for attention from all the different characters, CJ, all the way to Addie, even to Madam CJ herself, and also compare it to today's need for attention.
I feel like Addie's role, like Addie's need for attention, or like her character is kind of like representing like the tragic mulatto character that was portrayed during that time in a lot of films and a lot of things. And so I think that she represents that wanting to connect with her mother, and wanting that connection to the African American community that she identifies with, but also because of her skin tone and how light she is, she's cast out by her own people, and what she feels like, and then how she uses her skin tone as an advantage, and when it comes to her with the white society,
Mm-hmm.
and representing and being able to blend in or pass in a way. So I feel like that's what her character like basically was yearning to need her.
Yeah, I feel like all of the men in the story basically flipped the switch super fast when they weren't getting what they wanted. And so CJ not getting the attention he wanted, the son-in-law not getting the respect that he felt like he deserved, and then also seeing his wife go another direction totally turned him into a life full of deception. Even remember the scene of the sexual assault from the one of the rich, wealthy men at the beginning, one of the investors, when she went to go see him. That's a whole nother topic too. The fact that the way that situation was handled, and her not even ever telling anybody other than the father-in-law. And he basically said, just don't tell anybody. It's not going to help anything. And how that whole sexual assault was like hushed. Like that's a really big thing that it definitely happens in today's world. But let's talk a little bit about those things.
I know. What was his name? Ransom.
Ransom, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like he had some needs too in the movie because you saw that he used his cousin. I believe I know it was a family member.
Mm-hmm.
Money, and I think he was in business illegally. So he used his money so he can have a profit for Madam C.J. Walker company to actually build the factory. He wanted a part of it, but once he saw that his cousin came back and was like, "This is my money. I also need a part of this too." He wanted to wipe away his cousin, although his cousin was dealing with illegal things. His cousin ended up saving his son's life
Mm-hmm.
from getting hanged. It's just the fact that he just wanted to make a name for himself also. Like he was there for Madam C.J. Walker, so he felt like he needed to get some type of payback when that resulted to him going to his cousin, and in the long run he ended up losing somebody he thought was just out for his bad.
Mm-hmm. Now, Ransom's character, I'll have a question about that in a second, but his character was very interesting. And I kind of feel like they made him the protagonist against C.J. Walker. Like he was down for Madam C.J. even to the point.
Did they have were they trying to?
It really seems like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows that he was like loyal to his wife, but he had like an infatuation with Madam CJ's mind. Like it wasn't, he didn't ever look at her a certain way that like made it seem like it was sexual, but when she would talk or when she would speak up or do certain like business things, he would get like, it would look like a turn on almost to him. His character was very, very interesting for sure. But I don't know if I felt like he wanted a piece of it. I felt like he went to his cousin so that he could invest in who this woman that he believed in. Like he wanted to do what CJ wasn't doing enough of, basically. But that's just how I took it. Miss Tyranny, you here? Let me let her turn off her mute.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Do you want to introduce yourself real quick and your major?
Well, I'm Tierney. I am an engineering tech major at Austin P, and I'm currently a junior.
Okay. So do you have anything, or how did you feel about the Ransom character?
One second, sorry.
Okay, we'll come back to her. I wanted to touch a little bit on the comeback when she slept with CJ after he cheated. And then also, but then after she did it, she said, "Never run back to what broke you."
Okay.
And so let's talk a little bit about that as we let Tierney get her situation together. Let's talk about that and how that reflects in today's world as well. Sometimes that struggle between going back and not going back because you know what's best.
I mean, I think in the end she did what was best for her because CJ was for self, and he wasn't mentally on the same level that she was, and they weren't seeing things eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they outgrew each other. I think that was something that she did the right thing on by leaving him, because he was, even with the divorce, and he was trying to take away her reputation by taking away her name in a sense, which I was like, it kind of got, because like you see that with men, like you see that's how when Ike divorced Tina, Turner, he wanted to take away her name because that's like a sign of control. That meant that I gave you this last name, I gave you this.
Mm-hmm.
This is I own you type of situation. I think her stepping away from it definitely for the time show that she can do things without a man, and she can be her own woman and do it successfully at that.
Yeah.
I just feel like after she ended up sleeping with him, I think they ended up having some type of party, and they made eye contact. But then the mistress came, her salesperson came,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's when it clicked to her like, oh, this is never going to be what she thought. Like, she don't think she can go back from it. So I did think that at one time she did think maybe they could work things out, until she saw that, oh, he's still in his ways, he's still with this girl. CJ, I just think that was his plan the whole time, to try to get more information out of her, to out her, because he did tell Addie that she ended up stealing the formula and stuff like that. I just think he used her in her most vulnerable time to get information out of her, and then when she realized, she was like, she can't go back to something that broke her.
Janelle?
I was going to say, I think it was calculating on his part, because he was on the phone with his fiance saying, like, I just got to stay and wear her down. And so I think he had plotted to do something like this, and she just she fell into it. But you asked about, how does that reflect on today? And I think we've all been in situations where we let someone go, and then whatever that second chance is, we give it, even though we know that it's probably not going to be the same. And so I do applaud her for, as Tamia said, it did seem like she thought, you could see when they saw each other at that funeral repast, that she, like, it was a glimmer of, oh, there you are, I'm happy to see you. But then when the fiance stepped out, she was like, oh, okay, you still on that same stuff you were on. And so, it seemed like from then she was like, all right, we're done. And so I can applaud her for not falling back into that. I cannot fault her for falling into it that time, that first time, because we all have done that.
Okay. Mia, you got anything on this?
I thought I did already went.
Oh yeah, you actually started it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So one last thing. Entrepreneurship. Even outside of male, female, just let's talk a little bit about how unavailable and how unattainable it was back then, in comparison to where we are today, where people can really have so many different means of being an entrepreneur in so many different ways and different levels. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that.
I think it's remarkable that she was able to amass all the wealth that she did and the business structure that she did back then, because all the laws that we have in place, equal protection, anti-discrimination, none of that existed back then. So you had to go to men and beg for their money. You had to collect, outside the church. So the fact that she was able to do that was really impressive. And I think that, as people struggle today to open businesses, there are hurdles for people, that exist, but it was nowhere near that. So I think that we should just kind of keep that perspective. Like, if Madam C.J. Walker could do that, and she still has products today on the shelves, then surely there's no excuse for me.
Right.
Right. No excuse.
Is anybody in here an entrepreneur in any light? No?
I'm not an entrepreneur yet. I think it definitely has opened my mind and got me looking into entrepreneurship as like or seeing myself as a brand as that. If anything, it's inspiring because I want to go into doing fitness coaching and training and stuff like that. So it's definitely inspiring to see how a Black woman had made her market and made her, how she took her dream and how she wanted to be as big as Rockefeller, and then was living next door. It was like, ended up living next door. It was like really big, and it's really big and inspiring to me. So yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty a well-written part, is her bringing up Rockefeller, 3 or 4 times throughout the whole series, and then by the end, she's like humbly, but also just like knows that she deserves it, living right next door to him, and so I think that was well done. And now after dissecting it a little bit more, did anybody's rating go up or go down? Or are we still the same?
There was one part to bring up that really was what made me rate it that way. It's because of the point that they had to say that she stole that recipe. But there's no evidence of that. So it's like, why would you tarnish this woman's legacy by saying that she had a formula that was on her own? That really bothered me.
That was pretty tough because you don't see her using any formula in the beginning. Like, you see her trying different stuff, trying this, trying that, using her daughter, but there was no like list or nothing that she stole from Addie for us to have any evidence. So like, why start it like that, but then end it with oh, but you
it was
Yeah, that's
such
what
a story that didn't have to be told.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because when she first started her company, I didn't think that she had that much resources to actually figure out what was in Addie's product. Yes, she did have her can, but I don't think she have enough resources to milk down their product to figure out what was in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was wondering, how was she able to steal her product like they say they did. I also found it interesting that I did not know anything about Addie until this series came out. Like, they used to always say Madam C.J. Walker is the first millionaire. I didn't know that it was actually Addie. Well, they say Addie is the first. Actually, when you look up the information, it's like in Black history, you really do not hear about Addie. You only hear about Madam C.J. Walker.
Yeah, I think that they it's almost like they were trying to make sure that if any of these people from history's family members watched it, that they could be on their family member's side. Like, it was almost like they wanted everybody to be able to, if I'm CJ's son or his nephew, they wanted me to be able to watch it and be like, yeah, like they did my uncle wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense? And then even Addie, like at the end, I felt like they wanted Addie's family to know, like, hey, we know that y'all played a significant role in this woman's history. And so I think that that's very interesting. We got Tyranny said, I totally agree with her. I feel like it was much harder during those times. I wanted to ask if people think that there is a big problem, I guess, with competition in today's time between similar businesses. She says she has a noisy background. So we talked a little bit about that, but that is a really big thing, because we still do have that crabs in a bucket mentality in our world. And some of it is because of the institutional racism that we've dealt with, of only one, we got one spot for one person of color, so y'all fight for that one spot. With things like, what's it called, Danelle? Why can't I remember? Affirmative. Yeah, affirmative action. And so when it comes to like young entrepreneurs, why do we have we still have that same issue that happens? We always have that protagonist and that antagonist situation and why can't we work together when it comes to like young entrepreneurs in today's world? That was a really good statement. And anybody have anything to say on that? I guess we
I
don't have
necessarily don't feel like it's a big competition because everyone is sick. The only problem I have is like I see more Black people doing beauty instead of like everybody's selling lashes, everybody's selling hair, everybody's selling um anything pertaining to beauty. I just feel like we could do so much more than beauty.
Mm-hmm. I think that kind of goes back to the marketing thing though as well, is when it comes to like what CJ was trying to do. He was trying to market towards the people who were paying. And so maybe that's why you might be familiar with so many different small startup companies doing beauty, because they know that Instagram is popping and you got to look good for the gram. You got to look good for Snapchat. So everybody's big on beauty right now, and that clout chasing attention. And so that is the ideal area to get into. But it also has a lot to do with us not necessarily having opportunities to we don't have enough movies like this or series like this that help us and our young minds that are people of color to know that there are so many different realms we can go into and break into. And so I think that that's the easiest route. Just like it always used to be, especially for men of color, it was I need to either rap or I need to be a professional athlete. Like there's nothing else there for me. And all of the people who we see successful in the light are in those realms. We don't see enough of our WEBs of today and the people who are just doing great things and writing great books. And so it has a lot to do with what our perception of success is as well. So, but that's a whole nother topic that we can get into. Yeah, so I think that for time's sake, 2:30 is where we're trying to stop. And so I want everybody to have one more opportunity to say anything that they felt about the story that we didn't touch on, and then also a farewell. So we'll start with Ms. Donnell.
Like I said, I wanted this to be a 10. Yeah, I'm always really grateful when people shine a light on our stories, because I feel like, that can never be a bad thing. But I think I want more facts instead of, I guess, Hollywood trying to sensationalize something, and being careful not to intentionally or unintentionally tarnish someone's legacy who had absolutely nothing to do with it, like Booker T. So I appreciate that, and I also appreciate you for having this space, especially in light of what we have going on. It's still nice to connect with people, and I think the next thing we should talk about is the Clark sisters, because that was really good. I think that has a lot of jumping off points to discuss as well. So put that on your schedule.
I haven't watched it yet.
Then that's your call right now. Let's all watch it, because I haven't watched it either. But I definitely want to check it out. My wife watched it and she enjoyed it. So, yeah, thank you for those words. Ms. Tamia?
I just like the fact that they included, I don't know if it's a great granddaughter, but they included somebody that was in her family. After the series, they had like the background. I don't know what it's called, but they at least had somebody in her family, which she probably do have information, because her folks probably told her some down the line, passed it down the line. Although it probably was some fictional things just to catch the viewers' eyes, but I do like the fact that they included her in it.
Okay. Miss Mia?
Overall, I think that the film they did a good job in what they were trying to portray, and with her success. I just think that, like it was said earlier, they did put Hollywood fingers on it, and have to add some stuff that was a little extra, a little scenes that we know that were just, I guess, like for ratings for Hollywood. But I really would have liked it if they would have highlighted more of the what was going on throughout the time period, so we can put things together a little bit more. That's why I gave it a 7, because I wish like if I didn't know things before I watched the movie, I wouldn't have been able to understand some things about it.
Okay. Miss Josephine, you want to say anything? You're on mute right now, but you want to say anything?
No.
Well, thank you for joining us. Tierney, you want to say anything, and you want to type anything out? Okay, I guess we'll. Oh, there it is. I really like the show overall, and the message behind it. I didn't know much about her until the film, and when it was released. So I do agree with that. I like that we have stories like this that come up, because then with our beautiful smartphones, we have the opportunity to Google and look up things and start reading more into Madam C.J. Walker. So I think that sometimes we just need that little small flame to kind of pop up to make us start thinking about different things. And so now, because of this series, maybe we may have more people go outside of beauty and look into other areas of opportunity. And so, yeah, I think that there's always a positive to everything. I'm not sure if everybody is. I'm not the the biggest Tiffany Haddish enthusiast, but I also am not big on pushing any other Black person down. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes I think she can be a one pony show, or like she is kind of the same character in everything, but at the same time, I think that's what people love about her. And she from LA, so I got love for her for that too. But I think that they did really well on the casting, and I think that this is something that I could show my daughter and be like, hey, you should check this out, you know. So once she's old enough. But Octavia, we already know that she's with it and she's killing it. Blair Underwood did an awesome job. Who was some of our other characters? Bill Bellamy, you know, he had a small role.
Yes, Bill Bellamy did real good.
It's good to see him back in the limelight a little bit. Ransom's character, I haven't seen him in anything else other than one of my favorite movies, Paid in Full, and so to see him in this light is super awesome. But Addie's character did a really good job of not being that super like evil person, but also like really showing her different layers. And so whoever was behind it, they did well. But there was just some writing points that was just very interesting, especially when it comes to playing some of these names. Tierney says, I would also like to have a discussion like this on Malcolm X, which is now on Netflix. Woo! That's one of my favorite movies of all time. It is a Spike Lee joint, but it's done differently than most Spike Lee joints. It is pretty long. It's definitely worth it. And so check that out. I think that we should definitely look into that. School Days. What you got, Mia?
I think she was talking about who shot Malcolm. Were you talking about who shot Malcolm X? Tierney, the documentary series. So that's yes.
Oh, so that's Malcolm X.
Yes, it's a series called Who Shot Malcolm X, and it's a guy. He does an independent study research for almost.
Oh, I did see that. I saw that.
For almost 20 years. It's great. Like if y'all want to watch it, like it's a really good documentary. I definitely suggest.
Better than the movie, but it is good.
Huh?
It ain't better than the movie, but it is really good. Denzel, you can't.
It's not better than the movie. No, trust. I love the movie, but the documentary, like seeing like him, he's actually doing the research, going up to these people, asking these tough questions that the police never asked. So it's like.
I did check that out on Netflix. It's how many episodes? Is it just one? It's just one episode.
No, it's not one episode. It goes into. It's like I think it's like 6 episodes. It just goes through and it shows like I guess he finds the killer who actually does it. So
Wait,
Yeah.
got that far. Okay, so that's definitely something that we want to check out. But any last words from anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you all very much. I'm happy that you all took time out of your day to do this. I know sometimes Zoom is it's a great thing, but sometimes it's like, I got to sit here in front of this camera and sit still, and I'm trying to do this and this around the house. So I appreciate y'all giving me an hour and a half of your time today, and we will definitely do this soon. But hopefully I can look forward to having you all's. I want to be able to email you all and have you be a part of our next conversation. And so we'll go with the Clark sisters. And so be on the lookout for that. Follow the Instagram and the Facebook as well. But thank you very much. And this will be up on YouTube as well. So you'll be able to refollow it and look at it a little bit later. All right.
Y'all take care. Stay safe out there.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, y'all too.